I'm really interested in making things with my hands and using unconventional materials in an interesting way. And one of the things about my work that I found is when I'm wearing it around other jewelers from a distance, they're like, what is that made of? And they want to come close and they can't figure out whether it's metal or what it is.
I really started to think about what could I make that felt meaningful, like really meaningful. And of course, handmade objects are meaningful in and of themselves. Like with the Chilliwack River clay, it would be like a light bulb would go off for them. And I told them that it was harvested from clay here. And so many people would have a connection or share the connection that they have to this place. And that's the thing that we would talk about.
You know, what we're doing is we're just accentuating a space, essentially. So the space is there. The light is, sometimes it's like a decoration, a jewelry, but it's also creating an atmosphere and an emotion. So I think people hopefully connect with that in a way.
Inspiration is such a, it just feels like it's like a melting pot of all of these things, you know, of the places that you visit and the people you meet. And so much of it is actually just the most mundane things that you happen to see, you know, when you're walking in the woods or whatever, a color, a texture.
I was making things from found objects, like gloves that I'd picked up in the street, fabric, textiles, all kinds of different materials. I was interested, and I still am interested in how jewelry is a way of communicating ideas or meaning without having to speak.
The day-to-day things that people use and interact with in their daily life, I find kind of interesting. For example, like if you were walking down the street and like maybe a door handle looks different in Italy than it does in Saskatchewan or something. So just looking at those kind of like day-to-day, sort of like banal things, I find them interesting because they're useful, but they also vary depending on culture and like, you know, the filters that those ideas went through to become an object.
I'm not interested in making things that already exist or adding to the enormous pile of waste that is already there. I'd rather take from that pile of waste and reduce it a little bit and actually draw attention to that pile of waste.
In the time that we're living in, it feels like it's really hard to know what is worth putting out in the world and how are we just not adding to the mountains of stuff that already exists. Also making objects that have a story that people can share, that people can pass on, gift to people, and talk about. I feel like that elevates the objects and gives them a little bit more meaning. And also if they know the part of reciprocity where, you know, with a certain portion of the proceeds go back to the river. It feels like they function in more than one way. They're functional objects, but they tell a story, they give back, and I guess in that way, they feel more substantial to me. And I feel like I can justify making them for those reasons.
We always try to design things, at least for Anlight, that are meant to be used for a long time as well as serviceable. So if something breaks or fails, and it can be replaced easily, as well as using best practice for processing materials and such, things that are recyclable or take less energy to recycle. The primary for me would be that products, they're not trendy so that they maintain their value, not just aesthetically, but functionally for a long time so that people have them and they work and they covet them for the whole use of it. So to me, that's one way to approach sustainability. I mean, we're always looking for the best way to do something. It's not necessarily about making something new always. I think it's important to make things that are improving on what was before.
For me, my practice is not about selling product, but it is about contributing to ideas about what jewelry can be, about adornment, about the value of materials and the value of labor, of people's work, which is so undervalued. By taking this waste, this rubbish, and elevating it through an appreciation for making things with your hands and using skills that have been passed down through generations, it creates a piece of jewelry which traditionally or is often associated with value and status, importance, wealth. I like the idea of doing that. I think we're all looking for authenticity and innovation right now. We want something new. We're desperate for something new. And sometimes by returning to old techniques and maybe combining them with a modern technique, or taking two very disparate techniques and putting them together, we can be really innovative in what we make. The way I put things together is very informed by my previous life as a jeweler and metalsmith. So now I'm going back in the opposite direction, and I'm going to be using those textile techniques in metal. So I'm really excited about that.
The idea with Veil, it's kind of an ambitious project. The idea was to create a tile that could be joined on at least 4 sides to create planes of light, and could be suspended horizontally, vertically, or on the other axis to create like curtains or flat panels or vertical installations. The point of the product was to create sort of a tool set for architects and interior designers and designers to apply light into their spaces. So when it comes back and they've actually used it in sort of their own way, but still using the facility of the hardware, it's really, really cool. Like, it really means that it works. It has its own spirit when you look at it, just how the light comes through it. I'm very happy with it.
This is the thing that I get excited about too, like industrial applications, like figuring out like what other industries would use. And I'm not gonna buy like a $20,000 machine to do the thing, but what's that machine doing and how can I do that on a small scale to make it possible and to make it work in a small space? I feel like there's all kinds of innovation there. And it feels like it's more about that now than it is about like creativity in like maybe more of the traditional way that people are thinking of creativity. I think innovation is almost a better word for it.
I mean, awards are always great because it's a chance to get recognition for all the work that goes behind all of this. There's a reward when you see something you make being used, for me, and hopefully for the team that we work with. I think it's just encouraging to keep moving forward, keep working.
I'm really excited to have this opportunity to share my work with a different audience. And so it's really nice to be part of this broader conversation about craft and art and applied art, and to be recognized as a jeweler working with alternative materials and making conceptual work. I'm really glad to have that message out in the world.
I guess in the last couple of years or since COVID, I've really been missing the events and sales and that sort of thing. I've been feeling a little more isolated, like a lot of people, I'm sure, just, especially since I'm working on my own. So I feel like something like the Carter Wask Award feels like it's a really nice reminder that there's other people out there, and it's really nice to feel this support and feel this connection to the BC arts community. So I really appreciate that.